Hello, welcome back to That's English. It's lovely to see you again. Ashley, what are you doing? Ashley!
Hi, everyone. I was trying to transmit my thoughts to you.
Without speaking?
Yes, a futurologist
A what?
says... A futurologist. Someone who studies the future and makes predictions about what will happen.
Oh, I see. Well, that's interesting.
Yes, and he says that we won't need to speak in the future. We'll communicate using only our thoughts. Today's episode is all about the future. I think it will be fascinating.
We'll try and answer this question while you watch.
According to Mr. Reynolds, what period of time do the people in the spaceship come from?
Hi, Laura.
You look busy.
I've just got a job from the Daily Tribune. They want me to write an online article for them.
What's the subject? Or is it confidential?
No, it's about what life will be like at the end of the century.
That's interesting. I like good science fiction.
They want lots of visuals to go with the article, so I'll be working with Gloria again. Right, look at this.
That is futuristic.
It's a space elevator, and there are people working on them right now.
What does it do?
It'll take you from the Earth's surface, along a cable and into space. So you won't need a rocket.
Wow. I don't even like going in the lift in a department store.
Well, by the time I'm 50, they'll have already built space elevators on Earth. And by the end of the century, they'll have built them on the Moon and Mars too.
You know, technology changes so fast. It's hard to imagine what life will be like at the end of the century.
In 10 years' time, the population of the planet will already have passed 8 billion people. There just won't be enough food for everyone on land, so they'll have to farm the oceans as well.
I've read in the papers that by the end of the century, people won't be talking to each other anymore. They'll only be using electronic devices to communicate.
No, they won't have stopped talking yet. I think people will still be using spoken word some of the time, but they'll also be using thought transmission.
Do you mean people will be communicating directly with their brains? In fact, there's a customer who comes in here who says he communicates with aliens.
Well, there are plenty of crazy people about.
He's a bank manager. He doesn't look crazy. He says he's seen an alien spacecraft.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, maybe I should meet him. Thanks for inviting me in.
That's all right. It's just down through here. I think you'll be amazed by what you see. Now, you see the light there?
Well, that could be anything.
Oh, it's clearer in this picture.
Do you think that this picture is of a spacecraft from another planet?
No, they're not aliens. They're from planet Earth.
Really?
Yes, this spaceship is from the future.
You mean they can travel through time?
Yes, they come from the end of the 21st century.
Well, how do you know this?
They contacted me through thought waves.
Well, what did they communicate to you?
We must change, or the world will end.
There you are, communicating without speaking.
Ashley, do you really believe Mr. Reynolds?
Why not?
Did you get the answer to our question? According to Mr. Reynolds, what period of time do the people in the spaceship come from?
Yes, this spaceship is from the future.
You mean they can travel through time?
Yes, they come from the end of the 21st century.
Well, Mr. Reynolds believes that they come from the end of the 21st century and they are humans from the future in spaceships.
So, Mr. Reynolds predicts that time travel will be possible by the end of the 21st century.
Let's listen again to some predictions from the video. Watch.
It'll take you from the Earth's surface, along a cable and into space. So you won't need a rocket. There just won't be enough food for everyone on land, so they'll have to farm the oceans as well.
Remember, when we make predictions, we use will in the affirmative and won't in the negative.
Mr. Reynolds thinks we won't need to speak in the future. we'll communicate using thought waves.
We also heard Pete talking about completed actions in the future. Watch.
In 10 years' time, the population of the planet will already have passed 8 billion people. No, they won't have stopped talking yet.
We can talk about a completed action in the future using the future perfect with already and yet. To form the future perfect, we use will have or won't have plus the past participle.
And we often use a future time expression. For example, they'll have already built space elevators on Earth in 50 years' time.
I think that by the end of the century, they'll have already colonised Mars.
But they won't have solved the problem of overpopulation yet. Let's get back to Cafe 27. Perhaps Pete will have already finished his article.
His friend Gloria is helping him find some futuristic images of flying cars and genetically engineered humans for his article.
And Mr. Reynolds is having problems.
While you watch, try to answer this question. What happened to Mr. Reynolds?
Hi, Gloria.
How's the article going?
Well, I've spoken to some research and development people at a technology company, and I had a meeting with a futurologist at the university. But it's so hard to predict the future.
Yes, technology changes so quickly. 20 years ago, not many people would have predicted the rapid development of the internet.
Well, what we need is 4 or 5 clips of what life will look like at the end of the 21st century.
Well, how about this animation of a human colony on Mars? Some people think we'll be starting to colonise the other planets by the end of the century.
I know, it's incredible.
And look at this city on Earth in 100 years' time. Do you think we'll be living in huge cities like this?
Yeah, people won't be living in villages or the countryside anymore.
And what about transport? Do you think we'll still be sitting in traffic jams?
Maybe we'll be travelling in personal flying cars by then.
Oh, I can show you some of them.
Oh, fantastic. What about inside the home?
See what you think of this.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure people will still be watching TV, but it'll be holographic TV. Yeah, I can definitely use that for the magazine.
And I've also got some illustrations of cybernetics. This one is half machine, half woman.
Ooh. I don't think my editor will like that. Oh, are those aliens?
No, those are human beings who have had implants or have been genetically engineered. By the time we're old, people won't look like this anymore. This is what they'll be looking like.
Wow, well, they're great. Can you finish this by the time I meet my editor next week?
Sure. I'll have already finished the animations by the weekend.
Fantastic. I've finished the article, and they like it.
Congratulations! Did you get to see Mr. Reynolds?
Yeah, it's an incredible story. He wanted me to pay for the photographs, but I think it's a hoax. I think he's lying in order to make some extra money.
You're probably right. Do you know he lost his job at the bank? I've heard he's under investigation for fraud.
I'm sorry you lost your job, Mr. Reynolds. Was it because of the aliens?
They're not aliens, they're from the future. Listen, in 10 years' time, we'll have already developed time travel. But no one believes me. They laugh at me. Well, they won't be laughing anymore when I come back from the future.
I think Mr. Reynolds is a bit mad.
Well, you never know. Perhaps he's right.
Oh, come on, Ashley. You don't believe all that, do you? Now, what was the answer to our question?
What happened to Mr. Reynolds?
You're probably right. Do you know he lost his job at the bank? I've heard he's under investigation for fraud.
Poor Mr. Reynolds lost his job at the bank and is being investigated for fraud.
Well, I'm not surprised.
Do you think we'll all be half man, half machine in the future?
Or half woman, half machine. Perhaps we'll be living forever.
Annabelle just talked about an action in progress in the future. She used the future continuous.
We use will be or won't be plus a verb in the ing form. Let's see some more examples from the video.
Do you think we'll still be sitting in traffic jams?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure people will still be watching TV. Yeah, people won't be living in villages or the countryside anymore.
Well, they won't be laughing anymore when I come back from the future.
We often use still with the affirmative and questions and any more with the negative.
Look at their position in the sentence. Still comes between will and be, and any more comes at the end.
For example, will we still be living in London in 2 years' time?
Well, I won't be living in London anymore when my kids grow up. We'll move to Spain.
We can also use time expressions like by the end of the century, by then, and by the time with this tense. Watch.
Some people think we'll be starting to colonise the other planets by the end of the century.
Maybe we'll be travelling in personal flying cars by then.
By the time we're old, people won't look like this anymore. This is what they'll be looking like.
I watched a brilliant film the other day that showed what life will be like in the future.
Yes, many science fiction films are very realistic. We asked some people in the street this question.
Does science fiction paint a true picture of the future? Why? And why not?
Smartphones. Like stuff we use every day, smartphones. Like back in Star Trek in the 1960s, you would like have like a little speaker where you can, a mobile walkie-talkie or something like that you could talk to and you could, access data. That's what we do now.
I could watch a film from 5 years ago and then see something, it's like the film Face Off, for example. They're talking about face transplants and years ago in a film, yet, within the last 24 months we've seen much publicised these face transplants. So, I think science fiction and films have a good link.
It would be cool to have lightsabers, I suppose, but I can't really think of it being I don't know, no, I don't think it does.
Definitely not. If you look back in the 70s, all those like movies, like, was it Apollo 11 or something like that, and other movies where you can see flying cars. We haven't seen any cars flying so far, so no.
It doesn't look as if the people in the street agree with each other.
No, but it's true that the telecommunications we have today was the science fiction of the 1960s.
Well, that's all we have time for today. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.